This week at NASA. The Curiosity rover continues to make its way to Mars, and its scheduled landing in Gale Crater on Monday, August 6th at around 1:30 in the morning Eastern. Once delivered to the red planet's surface, Curiosity will begin a 2-year prime mission to investigate one of the most intriguing places on Mars. Join NASA TV coverage of Curiosity's landing on Sunday, August 5th at 11:30 p.m. Eastern. We'll have it on all 3 NASA TV channels, on nasa.gov, and on Xbox 360 as well.
While the real Curiosity rover makes its way to the red planet, reporters on Earth met the rover's stunt doubles in the JPL Mars yard.
We've had a rare moment between testing where we can invite people over and actually watch us do some testing.
The Vehicle System Testbed, the VSTB rover, is essentially Curiosity's twin sister, where it's almost the same as the rover that's about to touch down on Mars. And we're testing autonomous navigation software today. So what we're doing is we're setting up a pile of rocks. The rover is imaging the world around it, and it's determining where is it safe to drive and where is it not to.
Media visitors saw the rovers in action and talked to scientists, rover drivers, and engineers. Landing day is on everyone's mind. It's coming up fast.
You have to be nervous. I mean, it's a very difficult thing to get right. But, the thing is, we have done all the testing we could think of, and we put the effort in, and I'm very proud of the team.
The rocket that will launch humans farther into space than ever before has passed a major milestone. The Space Launch System program completed a combined system requirements and system definition review, which set technical, performance, cost, and schedule requirements to provide on-time development of the overall launch vehicle system. SLS now moves ahead to the preliminary design phase of the heavy lift rocket that will carry NASA's Orion spacecraft and other payloads and provide an entirely new capability for human exploration beyond low Earth orbit. The first test flight is scheduled for 2017. A large inflatable heat shield developed by NASA's Space Technology Program at Langley Research Center has successfully survived a trip through Earth's atmosphere while traveling at hypersonic speeds up to 7,600 miles per hour. IRVI-3, the inflatable re-entry vehicle experiment, was launched by Sounding Rocket from NASA's Wallops Flight Facility, inflated as expected to a mushroom shape almost 10 feet in diameter, returned safely through Earth's atmosphere at hypersonic speeds, and fell into the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of North Carolina. The test demonstrated that a space capsule can use an inflatable outer shell to slow and protect itself during planetary entry and descent. The program is managed by the Langley Research Center. NASA engineers at the Stennis Space Center have set a new test record for the J2X Power Pack. The 1,350-second test on the A1 test stand broke the previous record of 1,150 seconds, set earlier this summer. The latest test gathered data on performance under extreme conditions of the liquid oxygen and fuel pumps. The J2X is the first human-rated liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen rocket engine to be developed in 4 decades and is being built for the Marshall Space Flight Center.
And liftoff. Liftoff of the HTV-3 on its way toward the International Space Station.
The successful July 20th launch of Kanotori 3, the H2 transfer vehicle from the Tanegashima Space Center in southern Japan, was followed 7 days later by the arrival of the unpiloted cargo ship at the International Space Station. HTV-3 was captured by the ISS crew using the station's robotic Canadarm2, then berthed to a docking port on the Earth-facing side of the Harmony node.
2, 1,
Glenn Research Center employees watched the launch of the HTV-3 with heightened interest. Among the almost 4 tons of supplies, experiments, and hardware HTV-3 is delivering to station is the Space Communications and Navigation, or SCAN, testbed. Designed and built at Glenn, the device will allow researchers to conduct experiments, which could lead to a new generation of space communications. Also on board, a remote-controlled Earth-observing camera system named iSerb Pathfinder. The new imaging instrument, designed and built at the Marshall Space Flight Center, will acquire imagery of specific areas of the globe for disaster analysis and environmental studies. The program is operated as a partnership between NASA and the U.S. Agency for International Development.
I can't tell you how privileged we feel to be part of the crew going to the space station, and how thrilled we are to be at this point in our training.
NASA astronaut Kevin Ford and crewmates Evgeny Tarelkin and Oleg Novitsky of the Russian Federal Space Agency were at the Johnson Space Center to preview for media their upcoming Expedition 33 and 34 missions to the International Space Station.
We really appreciate the magnitude of the effort to get us into space and what the space station represents. So few people get to fly up there compared to the number of people who invest their lives in it.
A prior briefing outlined mission priorities and objectives, including hundreds of research experiments, a Russian spacewalk, international and commercial cargo deliveries to the complex, and a commercial cargo demonstration flight.
During this 6-month period for Expedition 33 and 34, we'll see over 198 experiments active on the space station, with hundreds of participating scientists across the entire partnership and around the world.
The trio is scheduled to launch to the station aboard a Soyuz spacecraft on October 15th. Once there, they'll join NASA astronaut Sunny Williams, Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Aki Hoshide, and Russian cosmonaut Yuri Malenchenko to round out the Expedition 33 crew. The museum in Washington, D.C. served as the site of a joint news conference by NASA and the U.S. Geological Survey to highlight 40 years' worth of accomplishments by Landsat, the world's longest-running Earth-observing satellite program.
No other satellite program in our country or in any other nation in the world comes close to having the historical length and breadth and the continuity and the coverage of the Landsat archive.
NASA launched the first Landsat satellite on July 23, 1972. The resulting 4 decades of imagery from the fleet of Landsat satellites forms an impartial, comprehensive, and easily accessed register of human and natural changes on the land. This information supports the improvement of human and environmental health, biodiversity, energy and water management, urban planning, disaster recovery, and crop monitoring.
It's really by stepping back and looking at the Earth, observing these changes in their context from space, can we really understand what's happening.
Hopefully you will enjoy the opportunity to present to your peers.
Administrator Charlie Bolden helped welcome to headquarters members of the next generation of idea makers. The Ideas in Flight program provided a forum for summer interns in NASA's Aeronautics Research Mission Directorate to give what I did this summer type presentation. Topics ranged from intelligent aircraft engines to technologies for reducing harmful emissions. Ideas in Flight was designed to provide unique hands-on experiences in careers related to science, technology, engineering, and math. Also at NASA headquarters, the Science Mission Directorate sponsored the Develop program's annual summer highlight presentation. Presentations were given by young professionals and students who worked on Earth observation research projects this summer, focusing on environmental issues around the globe.
The students really benefit because they get the exposure and they've got a nice thing at the end of the summer. They can go back and tell their family and friends and other students that they've made a difference for the summer.
Mentored by NASA and partner agency scientists, Develop interns extend NASA Earth science data and technology to policy and decision makers.
Kevin Ford in control of the stick at this moment. Discovery now going subsonic, the fleet-leading shuttle announcing its arrival at the landing site with a pair of sonic booms.
When Space Shuttle Discovery touched down at Edwards Air Force Base in Southern California on September 11, 2009 to conclude mission STS-128, no one could have foreseen that it would be the last of 54 such landings at the famed Desert Air Base. NASA astronaut Rick C.J. Sturckow, who commanded STS-128, returned to NASA's Dryden Flight Research Center at Edwards recently to recap the mission for Dryden employees.
So the crew comes on board and you can see Gennady Podolsky.
In his video illustrated presentation, Sturkow recalled highlights of the 13-day supply mission to the International Space Station, noting that the station is contributing to both scientific understanding and future solar system exploration.
So it's good we're developing all these. I think one of the biggest benefits of the space station will be, we'll look back and go, wow, if we hadn't flown ISS, we could have never accomplished whatever it is we do next. I think that will be one of the biggest contributions, in addition to all the great science, other science that's going on up there.
15 of Discovery's 39 missions landed at Edwards, the remainder at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The retired space shuttle is now enshrined at the Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum's Udvar Hazy Center near Washington, D.C.
20 years ago, on July 31st, 1992, Space Shuttle Atlantis launched from the Kennedy Space Center on STS-46. Atlantis' crew consisted of Commander Loren Shriver, pilot Andrew Allen, mission specialist Jeff Hoffman, Franklin Chang Diaz, Marcia Ivins, and Claude Nicollier, and payload specialist Franco Malerba. One of the mission's primary objectives was called off. The joint NASA-Italian Space Agency Tethered Satellite System, or TSS, was restowed and returned to Earth after a jammed tether line prevented deployment. Meanwhile, the European Space Agency's European Retrievable Carrier was deployed successfully. Atlantis and crew returned nearly 8 days later to conclude the mission.
It meant a lot to me to have the opportunity to go into space, and it meant a lot to me to be the first woman that was chosen.
When Sally Ride passed away recently at age 61, she left a legacy of accomplishment and inspiration. As the first American woman in space, Ride proved there was nothing to which a young girl could not aspire. And as a former astronaut, she continued to reassure young women, and young men too, that careers in science and exploration can be exciting, fun, and rewarding. Sally Ride will be missed not only by the NASA family, but also countless millions of Americans and citizens of the world. And that's This Week at NASA. For more on these and other stories, or to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and other social media, log on to www.nasa.gov.